But then wouldn't we not have driving? Wait,
Yes, no driving gloves. That's a double negative. But I'm driving glove free. I hope you are. Good evening.
Yes, he had a brilliant statement right before we went on air, and then Derek just kind of got me all lost there.
I had to point out the double negative.
Double negatives are sometimes intended.
Sometimes they're useful, yeah.
I really do like this Max Headroom look I'm going with tonight.
Oh my goodness, you're a floating head. I just realized that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
A green screen colored t-shirt.
Yeah.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
See, I'm slightly colorblind, and I kind of thought this was more gray, but obviously, see, because now sometimes I get fuzzy. Sometimes I thought it was gray, and I guess sometimes the camera thinks it's green. So
it sounds like a shade of green I would like. I like gray greens.
It's kind of military-esque.
Yeah, that's a lot of my palette is that way. In fact, I wear so much olive and khaki. I need to I deliberately wear a pop of color someplace at all times so I don't look like I'm cosplaying a World War II battle.
It's the end thing. It's the Steve Jobs, Zuckerberg, Theranos lady. All your wardrobe is the exact same shirt, exact same pants, exact same shoes. So you don't have to make decisions. It's one fewer decision you have to make every day.
Right. Obama was that way too.
And it's like he dressed himself. I mean, he might have put one leg in each pant by himself. I doubt if somebody lifted him up and sat him in his pants, but...
No, but I'm saying that there were only 3 suits and 2 ties in the rotation, and that was a deliberate thing because, like you said, people who have to make decisions all day, one fewer decision for them in the morning is a good thing. I kind of live the same way in the sense that I have 3 pairs of pants that are identical and 2 pairs of pants that are identical for the winter, and a rack of very similar interchangeable shirts, and so any 3 things I grab are going to go together. And because I realized a long time ago that people used to have 5 suits of clothing tops if they were upper middle class, and 3 if they were poor, and one of those was you're going to church on Sunday clothes. So us having endless choices and constantly replacing is a really anomalous kind of thing. But yeah, no, my wardrobe is mostly based on how the military told you to dress in the 40s. But just like I said, I put in that pop of color somewhere so that I don't look weird.
As you were talking, I think I have 16 different pairs of pants in different colors. I mean, even 5 pairs of jeans in different shades of blue. So I have to make that decision. If I'm actually going to work, the shirt's decided for me. But if not, I probably bought 18 shirts so far this spring. And then to add to that, I go out into the driveway and I got 3 cars to choose from. I've just...
You need to streamline.
Well, my Ford's making a decision for me. I'm getting it to cars. Got a car.
Oh.
Wholesale values $1,200, $1,500. Retail value is probably $6,000 or so. Transmission is $4,500. Car's completely paid off. Car is more than paid for itself. It's earned me over $35,000. So it's more than paid for itself. Junk the car, put a transmission in it, which if I do a transmission, then I have to do a timing belt, which is another $1,200. It's $5,700 to fix my $6,000 retail car. Or do I junk it and go out and spend $6,000 on a $6,000 car I know nothing about? Or change jobs, which I'm considering doing.
I mean, these days, replacing a whole transmission might change the entire character of the car to the point where you might regret having even repaired it.
Well, I mean, I've done the suspension work's been done a couple months ago, so all that's good. So I'm not worried about it tearing too many things up. Engine's been solid, so.
Would this be a completely fresh trans, or are you talking about a low mileage swap in from a wreck?
No, this is actually rebuilding the transmission that's in the car.
Oh, okay. It's a lot of money, but like you said, maybe better the devil you know. I mean, it's like my truck. I put money into this truck, and I'm I bought this truck because it was cheap, but effectively my car payment has been $800 a month given the amount of repairs I put into it. So should I have just bought something and tried to swing that 800? And the answer is, well, no, because some of that I had to float on credit cards for a while, so it wouldn't have worked out as a car payment. But like, man, it's expensive to be poor. It's, the Terry Pratchett and the boots thing. Yeah.
The only thing it's not expensive to be is rich.
Yeah. Once you've got a critical mass of money, it just keeps coming at you unless you do really stupid things.
So,
like cars.
Well, how do you make a small fortune racing? Start with a large fortune. Yeah.
Yes.
quickest way to
But
make
you
a
had
million-
fun getting there.
quickest way of making $1 million is to start with 2.
Well, that's like the third generation of any family business typically puts it into the ground too. So,
Yeah.
you know.
So I've been contemplating what to do there. And the other thing I can do, which I can't decide if the gamble's worth it or not, I've never fixed the door that got damaged 2 months ago that I have a repair estimate on for $2,900, which would total the car. Do I call my insurance and say, yeah, I think I want you guys to fix it, let them total it, and then let them cut me a check for $4 or $5 grand?
I mean, arguably the accumulated damage then makes that the, I mean, let me put it this way. If you were a businessman and this was a business vehicle, you probably do that.
Oh, yeah.
Because,
100%.
you know, so why should you as a private individual with insurance see it otherwise? Now, that said, I mean, how is your premium going to go up dramatically if you do that?
That's what I'm trying to decide. If I do that, is my premium going to be going up? And then am I just basically taking an interest-free $4,000 or $5,000 loan? Because I'll lose the accident-free 2-year accident-free discount, which I haven't had an accident claimed in, can't tell you how long.
I don't think I've ever had an accident claim. Knock on wood. I have arthritis in my neck from a car accident, but I have never had an insurance claim.
I haven't. I bet you it's
unless you count when I first started driving.
Been since the 90s, if not the early 90s, since I've had an accident claim. So,
which is still longer than me because I haven't been driving since the early 1990s. I drove an early 90s car when I was in college, but
then it counts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can't decide what to do there. Stresses.
What did the Dodge brothers say? Oh no, that was about timing. Never mind. I got nothing. The Dodge brothers say have a couple drinks.
I was going to say, I thought they always just said, let's go have some drinks.
Yeah, the quote I was thinking of, and I don't remember which of them said it. They probably spoke interchangeably like those Australian twins. But it was, if you ever find yourself without time to make a decision, don't. Meaning like stay the course rather than, you know, changing your mind in the middle of a high stress situation. But in this case, it isn't about time. It's just about, you gotta make you gotta go one of 3 ways eventually. So you're just kicking the can down the road if you don't make a decision.
So I listened to your episode from last week.
I'm sorry.
You guys were mean.
Mean?
Yeah,
we support all walks of car life. We might disagree with it, but we can't just flat say that the Carolina lean is stupid and these people are stupid. We just don't.
We're SEMA now,
and we can't.
As long as it might potentially put advertising dollars in our pocket, we're for it.
You did have a good point in that. What does that do to the gassers? Or what does that all of a sudden make?
No, actually, I mean, on principle, I thought it was wrong to go after the Carolina lean vehicles because, you know, honestly, like either that's not safe or it isn't under the existing inspection laws. So when you just narrowly target like that, like what you're saying is we're okay with not enforcing most of what's on the books, but we're going to go after these people individually. And it's like, you know, either your playing field's level legally or it's not, but that's a whole nother philosophical conversation that we can't have without getting too political. But yeah, I mean, the fallout for other groups is potentially real. As with that link I sent you guys during the week about the people going after the truck retrofit operation that's doing all the emissions defeat stuff, because we know that interstate trucking is a hotbed.
But going back to the Carolina lean, if you're driving through North Carolina and you're half-ton Ford with 6,000 pounds of concrete in the back, are you technically illegal? Because you're now not only overloaded, but you're doing the Carolina lean.
Well, I mean, get the statute out, because the statute probably says something about modified suspension, and overloading it doesn't count as modifying it. Now, if you heat the springs so it drops, then probably, yeah. You know, this is no different than when California enacted fender laws to try to stop hot rods. They saw a group they didn't like, and they were like, we're going to declare these vehicles unsafe and thus illegal to try to stop them.
Yeah, the Leno thing passed in the last week or so, didn't it, in California?
Yeah, but didn't it get defanged because you have to have historical plates to be emissions exempt, which means you've got all kinds of usage limitations on it?
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but there was something that they made it more difficult to deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah, because originally it was anything 35 years or older is just exempt. And I think what California probably sensibly said was, in a land where cars don't rust, 35-year rolling exemption is just going to result in an extremely old, high polluting, high fuel consumption vehicle fleet that we have decided a long time ago as a policy matter we don't want in this state, which I don't like it, but that's why I don't live in California. I mean, it's their right as a state legislature, if you're a 10th Amendment conservative or whatever, to let them do that.
Yeah, I see. Coming from Virginia and the antique plates there that you could put on anything, and then people would drive because that got you exempt from inspection. The stuff that was on the road, I totally agree with the historical plate requirement and the slight limitations on it, because that was the argument, is these cars don't get used all the time, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm good with historical plate. I know there was some talk about that you were required to have classic car insurance on it. I believe that's
comes with similar usage limitations usually.
Well, no, because I think even Hagerty says, don't they say that you can drive it and they encourage you to drive it?
I haven't read the policies in a while. That didn't used to be the case, but
most of them still have limited mileage, rules per annual, mileage. And if they catch you driving like 5 days a week to work, they're going to cancel you, because there's still limitations.
Yeah, if you get in an accident Wednesday.
Dang, Dave went away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we heard if you get in an accident on
Wednesday at lunchtime, yeah, they're going to be like, why were you driving this car around during the week? And you can hopefully be like, oh, well, I was going to have it detailed or something, but I don't know. My policy with my stuff has always been like, if I'm going to drive it like a regular car, I'm going to license it and insure it like a regular car, because I view that as like the bare minimum of my civic responsibility. And frankly, I mean, I don't know, like maybe I want, when I have a vehicle that's like less daily drivable than my Corvair, I would consider collector insurance and plates, but then again, maybe I wouldn't, because I don't want to be worrying about whether I'm in violation of either the law or my obligations under my insurance contract. I just want to go out and know that I've licensed myself properly to do what I'm going to do. It's like, I also pay my taxes, because if you defraud the tax man, you end up with a non-dischargeable debt. You can defraud the guy who's paying you, you're paying your truck payments to, because not defraud him, but stiff him, because you can discharge that, but you don't mess with your student loans and you don't mess with your taxes.
According to a quick Google search, does Hagerty have use restrictions? Yes, they do. The basic breakdown is it's not a daily driver. It's the primary restrictions can't be, because you're required to have a second car to have their insurance anyway.
Right. That's the first question they ask you. I have a story about that, actually.
And you got to have a garage.
Yep. Indoor storage.
Limited pleasure use. You can use the vehicle for leisurely activities like weekend drives, trips to the ice cream shop, or attending events. No fixed mileage limits. They do not impose strict mileage limits, but encourages limited usage consistent with the vehicle's collectible value. So
sure.
I guess,
and I mean, it's so easy to commit odometer fraud with an old car. Like, they'd be stupid to even try to enforce a real mileage limitation.
It's so easy to do it with the new cars. The number of Lamborghinis and Ferraris out there with odometer bypasses, it's just flat ridiculous. Because, and we could really get into that one. And then the eligibility requirements, can't have any serious infractions or alcohol-related offenses in the past 3 years. So that's just a quick breakdown of Hagerty, since they control the collector car world. Now, tell me about this truck thing. I know I saw the conversation, but I honestly didn't click the link.
Oh, so I forget where the shop is. I want to say New Jersey, but the feds.
I thought it was Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, okay, but eastern Pennsylvania, like near the state line, probably. Anyway, huge shipping port, a lot of trucks in and out. Some kind of repair and inspection place, so like an official state of Pennsylvania inspection shop, was selling and installing defeat devices to, make diesel engines run more powerfully or more fuel efficiently, but not in the non-polluting manner into which they're supposed to be controlled. And surprisingly, the feds went after this shop owner and are going to make a big deal out of a federal case, if you will, which is surprising, especially given, SEMA was all hot and bothered to get regime change in this country because they viewed, the incoming administration as being more favorable to modified vehicles. And if they'll do it to the truckers, which is a big industry with a lot of money in it, why wouldn't they do it to the hobbyist? Except that, I guess, maybe there's no money to be taken from the hobbyist in exchange for leaving them alone. But anyway, it raises the risk for all of us that now that they've said, okay, doing this on these interstate commercial vehicles is a clear violation of federal law and we can shut down shops doing it and press charges against their owners, they could do it to anybody. They could do it to somebody who's tuning late model Chargers if they're not doing it in compliance with the way the EPA has, certified those engines.
Which is interesting, even though I've been kind of out of it. I've been overwhelmed for the last couple of weeks with stuff. But in the big, beautiful bill, they basically do away with CAFE and all of that stuff.
Okay, then why enforce it against the truckers right now? And it's not just about fuel efficiency, of course, it's about emissions. And in fact, they may be getting a fuel efficiency bonus with this retuning at the expense of, emissions that have been deemed more undesirable because of perhaps where these trucks operate and things.
Well, that's kind of my point, is they might be doing it right now, but if things change with the big, beautiful bill, is that the BBB? Which is the better, which is another useless organization, because what they basically did in the big, beautiful bill is they can't eliminate these CAFE standards, but they rewrote the rules on the penalties so that if your car's not meeting, if the manufacturer's not meeting CAFE standards, they get so many points, and then those points are multiplied by so many cents and comes up to millions and millions of dollars. They just made the multiplier 0. So you take your 1,000 points, multiply it by 0, you got $0 in penalties.
So there's no penalty for violating the law, even though the law is still on the books saying they need to do it.
Basically.
Mm-hmm. Still, it seems hard to believe that they'd allow the Department of Justice to proceed with that case when they're so hot and bothered not to be wasting money on things. If they expect this, if enforcing these laws is such a low priority for them that their legislative agenda involves eliminating the enforceability of that entirely, unless there's something else going on and they're looking to settle this case in some dramatic manner that creates precedent. I don't know.
I could see the big thing is if you don't go after the one inspection place for doing this, why don't all the other inspection places do this? Or
that's the whole point of enforcing the law, right?
So I'm saying you might go at it as opposed to the EPA aspect, to basically you violated your agreement with the state of Pennsylvania, and
But then it's a state enforcement action. The feds shouldn't be involved.
Well, the feds get involved with everything.
What would be their jurisdiction here? I mean, without the federal agency involved, I mean, that's a purely intrastate activity to be an inspection shop, even though these are interstate trucks. I mean, you've got an issue here because the federal government isn't omnipotent, despite what people think. I mean, the states retain a lot of power, and one of them is if something's an entirely within the state activity, the feds have got no basis to get involved.
Well, we'll see how it plays out. I'll put that in my.
Yeah, well, since I clicked the link in my preview page, I'm sure I'll get follow-ups. I'm already getting follow-ups from the truck industry. Like I got some kind of thing about an automated freight line that's going to replace trucks in and out of Mexico. And I was like, well, they reinvented trains. Good for them. Monorail, ho.
Derek, you've been quiet up there in the corner.
Yeah, you guys are talking. I figured I'd just chill.
Oh, you were talking last week about eating in the car too, and then you got on Mike about not having kids and eating in the car. Mike actually had kids, but I think his kids are grown now, which is probably why he hasn't eaten in the last 2 cars.
Oh, Mike, the commenter. I'm like, who's Mike? What? Okay, yeah.
That's like what you're talking to, Derek.
Talked about last week.
It's because I stay up to date on all these shows. I don't necessarily get the audio out, which I heard you pick on me in the beginning of that show too.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I've got a few things going on here. I'll tell you what, I'll send you some episodes. You can get them edited and I'll get them uploaded.
No, man, we just want to rag on you. It's not really judgment. It's just banter.
I know they wrote that song about me. I walked in the classroom smooth and slow.
Called the teacher Daddy-O. I love the coasters, man. Don't get me started.
Why is everybody always picking on me? See, if I sang all my music, we would never get copyright infringements.
Your algorithm wouldn't recognize it.
No. So I do have a question.
Okay.
It appears that the name of the show is the ReBut.
Yeah.
The ReBut?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the ReBut is.
Well, I'm doing rebuttals over your episode. I figured
rebuttal.
Do some rebuttals over my 2 episodes.
Okay.
Even though we know I don't err and make mistakes in my 2 episodes.
I see.
Because I got a thing with the coffee can exhaust. I love the coffee can exhaust.
I see her on your resume. You like debuts. That's the butt. Yeah.
I wanted to spell it with 2 T's, but Google kept red underlining it. And, I pay for Grammarly for a reason. So I like coffee can exhausts. I occasionally will eat in my car. I'm really trying not to, but
I think the trick is
I live in my car. Yeah. And there was one other thing that you guys got on. Oh, manual transmissions. They need to freaking go away.
They'll never go away. They might become unavailable in new cars, but that's, as we've established, virtually irrelevant to Derek.
Yes, exactly.
All the cars we want to own were built years ago.
There's very few cars that are available with them. Some are creeping back, but like I say, it's technology. You go use your handsaw and your crank drill and manual transmission's fine. I'll go out and use my saw stop and my power drill.
Hey, one of my cars doesn't even technically have a transmission, so
that would be you. Yeah, is that your Duryea? Because it's got some kind of weird friction drive in it.
It's got the weird friction drive, yeah.
Yeah, the Sears that I wrote about years ago was actually like a Holmesman or something. Used an interesting deal.
Was it a Sears or was it a Holzman? Because those are 2 different cars, Dave.
I don't remember, Derek. It was a Surrey. I don't know. Look it up. Hey,
Derek,
I'm a published author. Google me.
Oh,
That's why I don't have to remember. I put it on the internet.
Derek, I did something over the weekend that I have not done since 2007.
read a book.
No, I actually
Ate
have read
vegetables.
books more recently. I walked into the Barber Museum as a paying customer.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what?
Wow.
It felt like the Corvette Museum because right at the entry, there's a 53 Corvette. Downstairs, there's a C4 ZR1. In the atrium, there's a C8 Z06. There's also a mid-year, and there's also a C2. It's it just felt like going through the Corvette Museum, but in a real quick, abbreviated way. The only thing I was missing is a C6 and C7.
Were they, is Barber like celebrating the anniversary of
No, he bought them.
Mustang, or? Oh, he just bought them to have them?
They're part of the collection, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
You know, he could spend $1 million a day till the day he dies and still have more money than most of us will ever dream of having, let alone have. So why not? You know, the car collection was massive at this point. So I highly recommend.
I thought he was done getting cars.
I don't-
heard that he was
Corvette,
gonna
so not
focus-
just car.
You don't know George Barber very well then.
I've met the man once.
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
was
he-
years ago. I'm
he-
just saying what I have heard.
Yeah. Nope. He's added those. He's added a Tesla Roadster. Looked like one of the local collectors, the one that donated the Porsche 918, also donated his Shelby 1000, which is, speaking of coffee can exhausts, this is the exact opposite. It is the best sounding exhaust I have ever heard on a car on this Shelby 1000. It is such a deep, deep, low bass. Think of a Suburban driving next to you with like 618s in the back or something with the when this previous owner drove it into Logan's, where we used to have the big exotic car meet. Don't ask me why it was Logan's, but that's where it was. The whole restaurant shook. All the silverware on the table shook just because of the exhaust, best sounding exhaust. But he had those. He had, I'm guessing, a Superformance Cobra Daytona. He had a Superformance Ford GT added to the collection. He had a real Porsche 356. I think it might be an A Speedster. He had a 968 S added to the collection. He had, lots and lots of cars added to the collection. He had a Lotus there. I still don't know what it is, and that's saying a lot for me. Healy 100. It's just, it's really impressive. I almost feel there's too many motorcycles on display. They've got a ton of bikes out now, but
if you like bikes, you tend to really.
It was a really nice visit, really refreshing. Like what he's done with the place, to the point that Brandy and I actually went ahead and became members. And Brandy's been on me to, you should become a volunteer. I don't know if they'll let me be a volunteer because who knows what I'll say. But being a volunteer docent and giving some tours, I could really enjoy. But they're also hiring for a conservator if anybody's looking.
Chief conservator.
No, it's not chief conservator.
Is it not? Oh no, lead. I think they used the word lead conservator. Yeah, sorry.
So basically my old job wrapped with the motorcycle job, and no restoration work, I believe, just maintaining the collection. But it'd be a good job for somebody. It showed up on the McPherson Automotive Restoration Graduates page. Actually, my dad showed it to me while we were standing in the museum, and I said no. And then it showed up on the McPherson Auto Restoration Graduates page. And if you read the description, there might be 3 people in Birmingham qualified for that job, me being one of them. But
Well, they're probably looking to bring somebody in from the outside.
It would probably, I mean, it would be a good job to relocate for, in my opinion. It's just not, I don't think the pay is competitive, but I'll leave it at that.
Well,
Competitive with what?
With what it should be.
Yeah, what is?
Well, I mean, bachelor's degree, $13 an hour. I'm not saying that's the barber job, but that seems to be.
No, but that's pretty close to reality these days.
That's pretty much Indeed for you.
Yeah.
Must have a bachelor's degree, MBA, and we'll start you at $11.06 an hour.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, and you need 5 years of experience. Yeah.
Yes.
Entry level job though.
No, that's not. It can't be an entry level job.
No.
Yeah, 5 years as an unpaid intern.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't start when you were a high school senior? Guess you're out of luck, bud. You should grow some work ethic like we had in my day.
Well, I cheated that in when I went to work for White Post because they require 2 years experience. And I did 2 years in a shop. Thank you, Tim. While I was at McPherson. So he classified all that as my experience. And that's why I was able to go there straight out of McPherson. I don't know what their standards are now.
And, the truth of the matter is that, you can always apply to something you're not technically qualified for and leave it to them to say no.
Well,
100%. That's
I mentioned that
that's been most of my career.
I'm kind of looking, and I took my resume and I wrote it all the way back to basically 1990 with work history. And I loaded it in a chat GPT and I said, make me sound qualified for this job. And then I put the whole job description. It gives you back some pretty wonderful resumes. Now, the catch is then you have to sit down and rewrite it so it doesn't look like AI wrote it, because otherwise the automatic resume readers now include AI detectors and will know if AI wrote that resume.
Which is funny coming from companies that are rapidly racing to embrace AI technology to eliminate workers, right? We can use it, but not you, not till we replace you with it.
Yes.
AI, automotive information. That's what we provide here on No Driving Gloves. Occasionally, we sometimes will provide you automotive information, but we're all overloaded with AI. So sometimes we stray a little bit from our automotive information. And 58 Cadillac Eldorado stainless steel roof had the bar in the front, and it had a perfume and makeup station in the back seat. So Derek was kind of right, and you were kind of right, Dave.
Okay. All right. We just focused on different details. Derek was worried about his makeup touch.
I can't remember. He owns triple figure number of Taco Bells, has a really kick-ass car collection.
I need my makeup kit.
I just want that LaFemme with the D500, man.
And the bar shot glass whiskey kit that was in the front. No, that was intended to be used while you drove. We didn't enforce DUIs back in the 50s.
Yes.
I don't even know if they knew what the term was.
Actually, when you got pulled over, the officer walked up and said, "Have you not been drinking tonight? I don't smell alcohol."
Why are you driving like this if you have no excuse?
The only time they cared is when they were pulling you out of the tree.
Yeah.
How did you survive that? Oh, because you reek of whiskey and collapsed like a rag doll. Yeah.
I didn't tense up before impact.
Yeah.
So what else?
Too bad the family in the car you hit was sober.
What else going on in the car world?
Had to go dark, didn't you, Dave?
Sorry, blame Mad. They screwed up my childhood.
What else is going on in the car world?
I still have a poster. I don't have it in my office. I can't pull it out from a Mad magazine on how to give the Heimlich maneuver or what to do in case of choking. Like step one is find out what the person ate and don't order it.
Yes. Very important. Very important. Well, I can fill everyone in on a hot political issue around automobiles, if you'd like. I have learned.
Give it to me straight, doctor. I can take it.
I have learned that on antique cars, the tariff situation has not changed. So
Okay.
bring a car when you bring a car, import a car from Canada to the U.S. Number one, if it is over 100 years old, there is 0% duty applied to it, and you only have to pay the processing fee, which is, at least in the case of when I was there last week, $11.78. And if it is
that Canadian or US?
Years, U.S. I was coming in, so it was U.S. Customs.
It's been funny if you paid them in Canadian money.
That would have been better. Yeah, I should have. But
they don't have pennies anymore, so you can't have a 78-cent total.
Yes, very true.
No, we have pennies. We're just not making more.
No, the Canadians.
The Canadians.
Pennies. They haven't had pennies in like 10. Is it 10 years now?
Oh,
I don't know.
I got 3 Canadian pennies in case you need them for your next car. Then.
Oh, okay, good.
Just for the gags. Yeah.
But yeah, if it's 25 years old or older, although I got a little mixed answers on it, but from what I was able to figure out, it should be only 2.5% duty on the value of the car. So if you want to import a car from Canada, it's not that hard.
You know,
if it's 25 years old or older. Now, if you're trying to do something new, I don't do it because it's just a used car, but 25 years old or older, it was actually pretty easy.
Yeah. With stuff that new, that's usually what they call like a gray market import, where it's something that was hot 25 years ago and only now can you get it here in large numbers.
No, that's not gray. Gray market import was the 80s stuff when you smuggled things over here and registered as something else. Now
that sounds like black market.
Now that's a accepted thing. I mean, people are buying cars in Japan right now and storing them so that the moment they turn 25 years old, they can ship them over here.
Yep.
That's kind of standard practice. That's
where my fleet is it's all in Japan under restoration.
Your numbers, Derek, because it sounded exactly like when I went to the dealership to get my truck. You got to pay the license fee for, I think it was $16.50, and you got to pay the sales tax, which was 2.875%. So, and that's the only thing above the number that was printed on the car. Every car had a price on it, and that's all you had to add. So why the freak don't you just add the $16.50 and the tax and say, this is the price out the door?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I always say whenever I go look at a new car. I'm like, I want the out the door price. Whatever number you write on this piece of paper you're going to show me, it needs to be the out the door price. I don't want anything added on it after that.
You guys are nuts. Next time you'll want that at the grocery store too. Just do some math.
No. I remember when we got Zara's BRZ, it had an advertised price in the paper, and I can't remember, $11,995, we'll say. It might have been something higher than that, lower than that. And when we sat down to buy it, we had, the dock fee. We had the sales tax. We had the addendum sticker. And my argument, no, I'm not paying the addendum sticker because you advertised this car at this price. It didn't say anything plus additions and whatever. We ended up winning that argument. And, you didn't even have you didn't have the stupid door tape on it and things that were even on the addendum yet. So take the addendum off. And they actually did take it off.
Well, actually, and so the last time I really went new cars or relatively new car shopping, which is usually used car shopping for me. I don't really like buying brand new cars. But was after the truck accident a little over 3 years ago, middle of COVID, so there was nothing on the lots anyway. And I found a truck that I really kind of wanted, which was the 20 oh shoot, what year was it? 2020, 2021, I think it was. they did the Cummins 6-cylinder diesel in the Chevy Silverado trucks, and they're fantastic engines. Like everything you read about them, they're just bulletproof. They're amazing engines for a 6-cylinder in a truck. And found the truck, went and looked at it. I mean, it was exactly what I would want in a truck, right? And drove great, liked it, started talking to him. And I mean, growing up in dealerships, I'm one who I never buy a car the day I'm there. I let them stew on it as much as I do. And it was one of those used car dealers that will put the extra crap on the truck or on the vehicle. So like, even though this was a General Motors product that had OnStar and all of that, you had to pay the extra fee for like the low jack system and all the stuff that they were going to add to it if you bought it. And I'm like, I don't want any of that. They're like, well, it just comes with it. We can't do anything about it. I said, well, then I'm not going to buy the car. And I walked away. They kept calling me for like a week and a half. I was like, guys, you don't understand. Unless you're going to take that stuff off, I'm not buying it. And they never did. So they sold it to somebody else.
When I bought my 05 Dakota brand new, because I have a tendency to buy brand new cars because I just love to throw $5,000 away every time I get a car.
Mm-hmm.
They had,
it's not really, you don't do it when you get the car. It's when you get in the car and drive it out of the lot. That's
the moment your name hits that piece of paper, you don't even have to get in the car. They were charging, I think, $395 for the identification, where they etched the VIN number in the windows and everything.
Yep.
They hadn't even done the work yet. So take it off. No, we can't do that. You'll need to bring it back to get that done. No, I'm not going to bring it back to get that done.
No.
So give me my $309. I ended up not having to pay it, but it was I think I was buying an 05 Dakota. And it was, I'm trying to remember when I did that. It must have been 06. Sixes, I think, were on the lot. And so it was like a leftover type thing, because I bought it because I got rid of my S10, which you guys talked about last week also. I got rid of my lowered S10 because I needed something that could pull a trailer. And
just FYI, the S10 I talked about was not John's, because we didn't know each other back then. So it was somebody else's.
I need to watch this episode because I don't remember talking about the S10. I love S10s, but I don't remember that conversation at all.
Yeah, you actually
when we were talking about driving too fast on the street.
You talked about your family's 94 or 95 because your conversation was, when did they kind of go round? Which was,
we had a 96, which was round, but that wasn't the first year, I don't think.
Which I think they went round in, it was either 93 or 94. And then the Blazer went 1 year later. So.
Really, the square Blazer lasted a year beyond the square S10. I guess I never realized that.
Yeah. And they didn't change any of the chassis. And that was because of the lowrider community. Because
that chassis was already perfect.
Well, you could get rid of your truck, but take all of your your spindles and your drop springs and everything and move it right over to the new truck.
You're telling me GM did that because of the lowrider community?
That was what was really attributed to that. I'm sure there was also the fact we don't have to design a new chassis.
Yeah, I thought it was just GM going, this is fine. We can keep doing this.
What they did, though, and when they went to the new truck, which I really think was 94, the convertible kits went away because you couldn't cut the roof off of the 94 because of, I want to say, I think it was partly because of the airbags. None of the convertible kit companies wanted to
risk coming into a cab with airbags. Interesting. Makes sense. Is ASC still around? They probably don't do.
Well, there was an ASC that did it. It was actually the big kits were called Ratical. Their logo was a rat, and they were Ratical kits. and
sense.
they're still sought after, and some people are still reproducing them. And when you did, what you did is you followed their instructions, and I did. You cut the top of the cab off, just a couple, like 4 inches beyond the windshield, and then you cut the back of the cab off, so you had a removable hardtop. And then the reticle kit was plastic pieces that you would then epoxy or glue onto the truck to cover all the jagged edged metal, and then that would allow you to put the roof back on and fit together. And would be my top was watertight, which was weird on my Isuzu. But then on the doors, you cut the door frames off because the door is integrated into the roof of the truck, and then those screwed into the roof of the truck, and then the cap went there. But what they should have done is given you a seal so that when it rained, the water didn't go between the roof and the top of the door, because as soon as you hit the brakes in, all that water ran and hit the back of the plastic piece, and then it would all come into the cab.
Oh,
Nice.
So you needed to mold that door frame in at the roof to prevent leaks. But I was pretty impressed at how watertight it was.
I think when the Slate comes out, you need to get one of those, the proper mini truck treatment. That's my dream.
I think I'm going to have to do a review on the Maverick in the next couple of weeks. It's a decent truck, but I've been talking to a couple of friends with Rangers, and I kind of want to do a side by side because the Maverick is supposed to be the new mini truck, and there's nothing mini about that damn thing.
They're pretty big, but they're front wheel drive, which is, I don't know, unsettling to me, but I find it okay. It doesn't bother me as much as the Honda Ridgeline does.
Well, the Ridgeline's front wheel drive, the Maverick's front wheel drive, but they're also both available all wheel drive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but when the base truck is front wheel drive, the whole character of the thing, even in all wheel drive, is just different.
So, and see, I go back to the manual transmission and all that stuff. I like front wheel drive. I grew up on front wheel drive cars. I love the Dodge Rampage because it was front wheel drive. And supposedly Dodge is coming out with a truck to compete with the Maverick. And I read earlier this week that it's basically inevitable that Toyota is going to come out with a new mini truck. Now, we're
in a new mini truck era. I love it.
Well, it'd be great if they actually made a damn mini truck.
Well, that's true.
Well, we're Americans. Mini's relative. Look what happened to compact cars in the 60s.
Yeah, I kind of want to do a comparison thing. It'll be a number show again. But like, how percentage-wise, how much bigger is the current Mini than, say, the 2002 Mini and then the previous, the traditional Mini? And how much bigger is the Maverick than the Ranger percentage-wise? And how much bigger is the current Ford Transit van compared to an Econoline or a 60s era? And just to see if really everything's growing proportionately.
And, I wonder about average waistlines too, because I think that's a factor in our vehicles getting bigger. Is people they want a lot more room than they were willing to put up with.
I heard the actual reason trucks and that are becoming so gigantic, and it all goes back to that CAFE EPA thing. And the bigger the vehicle, the bigger the overall dimensions of your lineup is, the average dimension, you get certain pollution credits back. So if they keep making the trucks bigger, the cars don't quite have to get as good a gas mileage.
Gaming the system.
And that's what they're attributing to the reason you can put an 88 Chevy pickup truck 1500 in the back of a 25 1500 Chevrolet.
It's ludicrous. Like literally, like a Colorado or whatever is the size of a full-size pickup from the 80s or earlier.
Well, it's
yeah.
say even I was driving the Maverick yesterday, and I was following a Ranger through rush hour traffic, and I kept going, that Ranger is almost as big as the F-150 that I had back in 12. It was a 12 F-150. And I don't know why you need something that big. I mean, the Maverick I have is too big. I keep telling myself, no, I shouldn't have bought that. And I should have went ahead and got a old, 15-year-old Tacoma or something, because I wanted something a little bit smaller. I love having the Maverick. It's a good truck, but it's not a mini truck by no stretch of the imagination. And if you're listening, Jim Farley, you were at Toyota in the early 2000s and knew how well the Tacoma and that size sold. We need a truck that size.
Yeah, but Jim's sitting there going, John, you just explained that it's going to screw up my cafe numbers if I downsize these trucks. We don't care what you consumers want.
But the big, beautiful bill takes care of your cafe numbers. You don't have to worry about those until the next election.
Well, hopefully, yeah, until the next election. Things are just going to change back and forth now forever.
Yeah, that's the annoying thing, is that every time something, it just goes back and forth and back and forth, and nobody just decide and just go. Anyway, sorry.
But anyway, yeah. So maybe Jim will revisit that after a while here, because I like smaller vehicles overall. I like smaller passenger cars. I like smaller trucks. I see no reason why I need something enormous.
There's no driving gloves always goes in circles. That's one of the things. If I get rid of the Fiesta and get something else, I'd like to have a Taurus, but I don't want to have something that big. Maybe I'll replace it with a Camry. I don't want to have something that big. I like the size of that car. I just don't want to buy the same thing. I like my smaller cars. Mm-hmm. And honestly, the Mini feels bigger than the Fiesta.
Mini people who had the first generation of new Mini really were quite adamant that the newer ones had totally betrayed the spirit of the Mini, because they'd gotten so large and cumbersome. I mean, I wrote a buyer's guide for that first generation of new Mini quite a long time ago at this point. And back then people were like, yeah, we won't abandon this generation because they're so great. I mean, it'd be like, imagine if Miata owners, there was just a sect of them that were like, the NA was the only good Miata. We don't recognize any of the subsequent models.
That's me.
You feel that way. Okay. So, well,
I like the NA and I like the NC because it's kind of that. NB I never really liked. The current one I'd consider because it's new. My brother just picked one of those up a couple of weeks ago, 2025 Miata. But no, I'm an NA Miata fan, and if probably should buy one before they become like CRXs and become way too expensive. But
I think Miata prices are only going to go up NA prices are only going to go up from here.
That's actually one of the cars that's crossed my mind to possibly replace the Ford. And it probably
I encourage that because it's worth putting $5,700 into a Miata, because
$5,700 will get you a nice NA Miata right now. It'll get you a nice NB Miata right now. And the big, it's I guess the old acronym Miata
is always the answer.
Yep. That's what you need to get, Derek. A Miata.
Nope.
You'd be able to tow your cars with it. And
I seriously contemplated getting one as a commuter at one time.
Clayton's going to be mad at me, but it's also the reason I don't own a Model T, which is they're too common. Like the Miata, the Model T, it's just like it is like whatever. Everybody's like, is that a Model T? I'm like, no, it's a Chevy 490.
Chevy 490.
Yeah.
Derek, the automotive hipster.
Like, yeah. Okay, fine. Be that way.
Old automotive journalist.
To me, see, for me, like the Miata, it's like, well, my version of the Miata was having the Solstice, and I've been thinking about getting a Solstice again.
I would say that's crossed my mind too. I've been thinking 987 Boxster. I've been thinking Miata. I've been thinking 944. There's actually a really nice 944 for sale in town.
For Saturn Sky.
12.
A Saturn. Christine, my wife, lovely wife, likes the Sky a little better. She likes the squarer, sharper body lines than the Solstice. I like the Solstice because to me, I had the green, the dark green with the convertible top, kind of a tribute back to the Bonneville. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. The 54 Bonneville.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. I liked it. That's what I liked about it. Yeah,
get the Sky and then put the Opal badges on it.
Man, if I could bring the Opal over. Oh,
well, when it's 25 years old, you can.
It's getting close. A couple more years. Yeah.
I just saw either a Sky or a Solstice on a used car lot around here. Remember the Fiat version of the Miata? I don't know if that lasted very long, but I liked that car. 124.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was it might have been 128, wasn't it?
No, I thought it was. I thought they went.
It was a callback to the original 124.
I've looked at a couple of those. I found one in Atlanta for like $8,200, and I know I say Atlanta wrong, but live with it. That's for Brandy.
Yeah, it was the.
But they seem. They all seem to be in the mid-teens range, and the Fiat actually uses a Fiat motor and not the Miata motor.
Oh, interesting.
So it's, to me, not quite as reliable.
An Italian engine, not as reliable as a Japanese engine?
Well, I don't think it's an Italian engine. I think it's an American engine.
Oh, because, a Chrysler engine, not as reliable as a Japanese engine? The heck you say?
I found out that the Fiat Multi-Air in the Fiat 500 was actually a American derived motor. And I think
really
in the US 500s. Actually, I think it was Tyler Hoover was talking about it because he just bought a BART for his Phoenix house. And that I started all of a sudden looking, as much as I hate Fiats, but now that the dealership went bankrupt here in town and went away, now I consider getting a Fiat 500 a BART. Nowhere to get.
I love Fiats, but primarily 30s ones. I'd love a 6 or an 8C. Oh my word!
Mm-hmm.
That's an Alfa Romeo, an 8C.
It could also be. It just means 8-cylinder.
I had something else to say about Miata.
Oh no, you're right. I was thinking of Alfa Romeos. Damn it! I would take a 308 Bahia. Yeah, or Bahia. I don't know how that's pronounced.
That doesn't matter. I say Atlanta.
They feel that way at Albany here too. You say it like Albany, they get on you.
Well, I don't get all these people that call that one state down south here Arkansas when it's really Arkansas. Anybody in Kansas will tell you that's pronounced Arkansas.
That's funny because I always thought it was Kansas.
Kansas.
Yeah.
You don't pronounce the F in Illinois, do you?
Isn't that in where the college you went to is in McPherson, Kansas?
Kansas? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like Arkansas. It's just Kansas.
Yeah, and as somebody who's from Illinois, everybody calls it Illinois.
In Illinois, they do?
No, those are the only people that don't use the S.
Oh, I see.
No, I think most of us from the Midwest get. Yeah, even us Michigan folks can. Yeah, we say Illinois. We don't say Illinois.
Yeah, there's usually a modifier in front of it too.
Agreed.
I just had a friend.
Yeah, I mean,
we
usually our Michigan can pronounce the name of its somewhat, the bordering states correctly. I mean, we all know how to say armpit of the nation. I mean,
Ohio.
And my wife is going to murder me in my sleep tonight.
I know lots of fine people from Ohio, and I love the Air Force Museum, but I do think it's significant that more people trying to escape the planet have come from Ohio than from any other place.
That is very true. Very true.
Yeah, I wish Jason was here tonight because
He's from Ohio.
well, he was walking through, or he was at his desk listening to No Driving Gloves one day, and this guy walked by him and said, "Is that John?" And knew my last name, and he goes, "Yeah." And we grew up. Well, we didn't grow up together, but we used to party together right after high school, and so somehow we ended up in the same state. And then I just had a friend from Peoria move to Alabama because she's fed up with Alabama or Illinois politics. And she moved to roughly the same area that Jason and this friend of mine are at. And I met her at one of his parties.
Oh,
So basically, Alabama is becoming the new Illinois. That's what you're saying.
Well, Alabama is one of these, usually that's in the top 5 or 10 states to retire to.
Oh, that's right. That's right. John's getting old. He's reaching retirement age. I forgot.
They did. She did comment to me, though, they don't like the brain bucket law in Alabama.
Oh.
So they're avid Harley riders, and Illinois is a no helmet state, and Alabama requires you to have a brain bucket.
Got to have the wind in your hair.
Well,
someone once said to me that they felt like helmet laws were most closely linked to public payment for healthcare. In other words, if you become a vegetable, the state doesn't want to have to pay for your care when your insurance runs out. Thus, it's entitled to put your head in a helmet to reduce the odds of you becoming a ward of the state. I thought that was a rather cynical but compelling argument. That's
the argument I've usually heard. That, and then the EMTs and that have to deal with it. Because I had a friend pass away in a motorcycle accident that a helmet definitely would have saved him.
Live fast, die young, leave a mangled corpse.
Well,
and on that,
I won't get into those details.
But yeah, there we go.
We talked about everything tonight: cars, motorcycles, exhausts, politics.
Thank you for reacting.
John's rebut.
And we tried to be controversial tonight, so be sure to share the show. Tell somebody about it. Hit that like button, subscribe, whatever you can do to help the show here. Don't even have to buy us a coffee this week. Just tell a friend.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be out of here. So,
right.
Who gets the goodbye tonight?
I don't know. I think Dave's the one that's usually wrapping us up because he came up with the tagline. So,
thanks for stopping by the garage.
Oh, that's so simple because I keep hearing how great my tagline is. It's the greatest. It's the most wonderful. It's a superior tagline. It goes above and beyond everything. You just can't stand it. It is the most awesome tagline out there